Drake's defamation lawsuit against Universal has been dismissed. Let's talk about it. All right, it says here, the judge tosses out Drake's defamation lawsuit against label over Kendrick Lamar's Not Like Us. Of course, we all know about the famous hit slam song by Kendrick Lamar called Not Like Us. And of course, Drake sued Universal, not Kendrick. He sued Drake, the label that I think both Kendrick and Drake are on, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, he sued the label, probably because, I don't know, maybe he knows that they own the copyrights, perhaps, I'm not sure, but he did sue the label, stating that Kendrick Lamar's song defamed him. Now, I did a video on this right when the lawsuit dropped several months ago. I'm not sure when the date the lawsuit dropped, but I did a video on this right here where I discussed defamation. And basically, the elements of defamation, according to the law, you have to prove 4 things. First of all, for it to be defamatory, it has to be a statement that is injurious to the plaintiff's reputation. And obviously, in the song Not Like Us, there were several accusations made that can be injurious to anyone's reputation. And as a result, you can have a defamatory statement, but that's not the only element. You have to prove 4 elements to prove a defamation case in court. First things first, you have different standards. Like I explained in the video, is that when you have a public figure, you have to use the actual malice standard, which means that the defendant knew that the statements that they made were false and still put it out there and published his statements anyway. That's the standard he would have to prove. But the 4 basic elements of defamation, as you can see here, is where to prove a case of defamation, you have to have all 4. And here are the 4 elements. It's where a defendant made an oral or written, factual, and defamatory statement. Second element has to be regarding the plaintiff. Third element has to be published without privilege or authorization to others by the defendant, and that the statement resulted in the plaintiff's injury. Now, the first element is the problem here. If you look here what the judge wrote in his opinion, the judge says here that a federal judge tossed out the defamation lawsuit that Drake brought against Universal Music Group on Thursday, ruling that the lyrics branding the superstar as a PDF in Kendrick Lamar's diss track, Not Like Us, were opinion. That is big because, if you remember, the first element of defamation, as you see here, it has to be an oral or written factual defamatory statement. Like the defendant has to be stated as fact, not as opinion. If you listen to Kendrick Lamar's song where he starts off, I think it's the second verse, I'm not sure, but he says, "Say Drake, I hear you like them young," and then proceeds to go on and on. But the fact that he said, "I hear," the judge here is implying like he's not asserting a factual statement, he's just asserting an opinion. And quite frankly, I understand where the judge is coming from, because when you look at hip hop diss records as a whole, they're often hyperbolic, they're often exaggerated, and they're often of a bunch of it. It's not really factual sometimes, not just diss records, but a lot of what you hear in a lot of these hip hop songs are just that. So the judge goes on to say here, a reasonable listener could not have concluded that the song Not Like Us was conveying objective facts about Drake. This was all a matter of opinion, and quite frankly, I completely concur with the judge on this one. This is one of those things to where, as someone who has listened to hip hop all his life and really understanding the culture, this was something that probably should not have been brought. This is something that has to be looked at as merely conveying an opinion. And the judge just didn't go for it. The judge says, no, this is not factual. Therefore, if you don't have the first element, you can't get to the remaining 3. Thus, the judge dismissed Drake's case. So now Drake's case is over against Universal. Some people say, oh, the whole lawsuit wasn't really about that. It was about renegotiating. I don't know. I don't know Drake. I don't know what there was, but that's what happened. The case is over. What do you think? Like I always say, man, you know, you guys are people who answer questions of fact because you guys are potential jurors. So what do you think here? Do you agree with the judge? You think this case should have never been brought? Do you think it should be tossed out? Do you think this is even good for hip hop, or would this put a stain on it? You tell me. I would love to hear your thoughts. Like, comment, share, subscribe. It's your brother, Attorney Jeff.